Welcome to Moving Through and Beyond, a podcast dedicated to sharing inspired journeys of redefining life, vision, and purpose after immense hardship and grief. My goal with this podcast is to give you hope and to let my guest journeys inspire you to make the choice to keep looking up. I'm your host, Carey Conley. Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching and listening to this episode of Moving Through and Beyond. I am so excited to bring back to you a very special friend of mine, Sharon Lechter. And we're going to talk all about money today. This is what Sharon is known for, and I'll let her tell you her story of how she launched into that world. But a lot of you know that I have been super focused on helping young adults. And when I say young adults, I'm talking about early 20s to early 30s. Because what I'm finding is that they are entering into a world that one of them actually described to me. He feels like he is entering into a very hostile world. A lot of turmoil, a lot of stress, just a lot. They're stepping into a lot. And it's scary because the statistics, of course, of depression and suicide in that age group is really high. And so what I'm finding from them when I talk to them is one of the biggest things, if not the number one thing, is the stress around money. So I just wanted to bring in the expert, our financial literacy expert of the world, Sharon Lechter, to talk a little bit about that. So I appreciate you coming in.
Well, thanks, Carey. Always happy to be here.
Yeah, if you guys don't know Sharon Lechter, I don't know where you've been. 27 books. 28 books. Very involved in the Think and Grow Rich Foundation, and actually annotated the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, which is my book of the month in April. So I mentioned you in that. But I just would love it, Sharon, if you would start with kind of talking about what spurred you on into going into this direction in your life.
Well, I'll try and give you the Cliff Notes version, Carey, because I've been around a long time. I grew up in a house where we talked about money. And so I didn't realize that not everybody understood money until I got out into the real world in public accounting and realized that most people chase a paycheck. They don't understand the importance of investing, the importance of buying, building, creating income producing assets.
Right.
As you well know, my favorite word on earth is assets. Assets are sexy, right? I talk about that all the time. And so it was... But I didn't really dedicate myself to it until we moved here to Arizona after I had built the talking children's book industry, and we sold that company. We moved here, and our oldest son went off to ASU, to college, his first semester, and he was welcomed on campus with a table that said free pizza, free money, free T-shirt, free money. And he had a really good time his first semester because he had credit cards that he thought was free money, and he realized that it wasn't so free. And so he came home at Christmas time and asked us to bail him out. And that was December of 1992. And that's really when I dedicated the rest of my career to financial education, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship. Because I had taught him about money. We just didn't know he had credit cards. And so we hadn't talked about that. And so, you move forward several years later. I'd been working with the school systems, and that's when I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad and built that company with Robert Kiyosaki, 15 books together over 10 years, and established really the world's largest personal finance brand. And when I made the decision to leave that, I talk about sometimes you have to close the door for other doors to open. That was when I was asked by President Bush to be on the very first President's Advisory Council for Financial Literacy. And I served President Bush and President Obama because financial literacy should be a bipartisan issue. And then in March of 2008, we know what was happening to the economy. That's when the Napoleon Hill Foundation reached out to me and asked me to help them revitalize and re-energize the teachings of Napoleon Hill. And so done 4 books in alignment with the foundation, and then done some other books on my own, Exit Rich, and my latest, How Money Works for Women. But throughout the whole thing, I've been very dedicated to young people. Right now, I'm still testifying before the State Board of Education here in Arizona, trying to get a semester class of personal finance required for high school graduation.
So important.
And that's been, I said, when they get that done, I will have reached the pinnacle. I can just accomplish.
And retire, not.
No, never retire. Just refire. When you love what you do, it's not work.
Right. So true. Well, I know that you and I both see this happening in our young adults and what kind of pressure this has been put on them. I think a lot of them, and I know you know some statistics around this as to why money is such a stressor for them, right? It's debilitating.
Yeah, a recent survey showed 87% of Americans are stressed out about money, but the most concerning factor was that the Gen Z, the Gen Millennials are 82% of them are stressed. I've never seen it that high ever in history. And so we're in an uncertain world. Debt is an all-time high.
Right.
Inflation. Young kids have college debt. They're not able to buy a house. I mean, they're literally in their mid-30s before they can buy a house. So a lot of the entire economic dynamics of the world has shifted in a very negative way for young people. And they can't see the light.
Right.
And they're still taught to get a job.
Right.
Not to understand the importance of entrepreneurship and buying, building, investing instead of spending.
Right. Yeah, I've talked to so many of them, and they tell me so many things. It just breaks my heart how they are entering this world, because it certainly wasn't that way when I was coming out of college. I remember enjoying it, loving that I got a degree, got married. We were starting life. We were super excited about it. And overall, I just don't think they have that feeling. And it's just heartbreaking.
Well, they're putting off marriage.
Yes.
For years.
Yeah.
And as well as home ownership, because they just don't know how they're going to survive.
Yeah. That's the key, is they don't, I think they don't see the way out. And that is very scary. After losing my son at 25 to suicide, and seeing, what the rate of that is looking like, it's very, very scary to me, especially in the young men.
Well, and you're right, and it's something that social media doesn't help, because they feel like they're all alone, and they look at social media and all the people they know are having the time of their lives, and we don't realize that social media is not a true reflection of people's lives, and it's a really scary time, and we're not teaching our young people to be self-sufficient.
Right.
They're dependent on friends or dependent on social media. And so we have to get them to where they feel more confident. And a financial education is a huge part of that, because we grow up hearing negative things about money.
Right.
Money doesn't grow on trees, pinch your penny, save for a rainy day. All those things are negative comments. So you grow up hearing money negative, money negative, money negative. So you end up with this mindset of scarcity. Mm-hmm. And it's implanted, programmed in your subconscious. And until you address that, you're never going to feel like you have enough money. And when you become a little successful, you're afraid you're going to lose it because of that scarcity mindset. Right. So you have to work on the mindset. Instead of saying, I can't afford something, because that's negative. It closes down your brain. Say, how can I afford it? Because that triggers your subconscious. It triggers your entrepreneurial spirit. And you want to figure out how you can get what you want. And even when the little kids, don't tell them you can't afford it. Ask them how they can, because they get very creative about ways to earn what they want. And then let them buy it, let them celebrate. But the greatest benefit is you're going to see their self-confidence grow right before you.
Right.
And once a child knows how to make money on their own, there's no stopping them.
Right. So as a parent, what would you suggest that they say instead about money? What would be some positive affirmations they could give their kids?
Well, how can we afford it?
Right.
And
I love the how can you.
And every single day, just talk about money. You take them to a fast food restaurant and say, the owner's not here, because it's a business and it's run by systems. And so they hire people to run the systems. The owner is out on the golf course, right? That's the benefit of owning income-producing assets. There's one company that makes the wrappers around your hamburger. A different company makes the straws in your drink. And just talking about the world of economics and the world of money makes them aware. It opens their eye to the world of possibility.
Yeah. I'm kind of proud of this, that my son-in-law and my daughter are both entrepreneurs, running their own business, flipping homes, and the almost 4-year-old has been involved in all like a lot of their home projects. So he's witnessing that, which I'm so happy about, because I do want him growing up not feeling like he has to work for somebody else. Right.
Well, there's no better training than having parents who are entrepreneurs. Yeah. I mean, when I was 10 years old, I was scrubbing out bathrooms between tenants. I say I've been a real estate investor since I was 10, but understanding my dad had a used car lot. My mom had a beauty shop. They owned rental properties. He owned orange groves. So it was just part of my life. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I shunned it. I thought that was desperate, that you really should have a career that you can retire from. And that all my friends, their parents were CEOs or military officers. And so I aspired to that.
Yeah.
Got first generation to go to college in my family, one of the only women in accounting throughout my college time, and one of the very first women in public accounting. So I thought I had arrived. I had become that sophisticated professional.
Right.
And then at 25, I woke up and I go, this isn't what it's cracked up to be. I'm not in control of my life. And I'm a control freak. I like to control my life. And so I don't make a very good employee. And so that was when I realized that entrepreneurship is truly how to build long-term wealth.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very happy about that. And I think that you and I are starting to see the tides turn a little bit, maybe in education, where they're opening up the doors for kids to learn that they can, become their own boss and not just sit down, do this course, get a good job, because like you said, they're getting out and they can't afford the things that's happening in this world. So.
Yeah, we are. I'm happy to say we now have 25 states that have either mandated or passed the law to require personal finance, a semester of personal finance for high school graduation. Some of them aren't in effect until 28, but at least they're in process. It's the other 25 states that I'm concerned about, and Arizona is like at the bottom of the heap. So it's something that we have to make sure is handled, because if we really want to level the playing field for every child, whether they're rich or poor, whether what home they came from, it's through financial education. And if we don't provide it at school, they learn it at home, which is why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. So we need to provide that education in school.
Yeah. So when you talk about financial education, what are the top things that you're saying that they need to learn?
Well, they need to understand debt. There's good debt and bad debt. Right. And that's the biggest debilitator there is. People get out, they get this free money from easy credit, and they get themselves into a hole and they can't get out. And so it's really important to understand debt and how to prevent it. And also to start consistently investing, even if it's small amounts of money. It's never been easier to invest small amounts of money. And so just start a consistent habit of saving and investing to be able to start seeing that nest egg grow. And it's such an incredible time in history for us, because you can invest in real estate with a small amount of money. You can make it a habit. The problem is money habits are normally lousy. Yeah. So we need to adjust those money habits and have them productive. And I try to paint a picture of momentum. Is the momentum of your money going forward or backwards? Because it's one or the other.
Right, okay.
And so maybe you've been successful to say, and you saved $25,000, but you have it sitting in a savings account that maybe might make 2% of money market, maybe 4% now, right?
Yeah.
And yet inflation is higher than that. So your momentum is going backwards. So you have to pay attention to how are you investing and deploying your money to help you build a more successful future.
Yeah, I love the word deploying. When I first started learning about this, which wasn't very long ago, Sharon, because like you, I was the first person in my family to go to college, and I grew up wanting to be a singer and actress. My parents were like, no, you're not. You're going to get a business degree and get a good job, right? And so that was the mentality I had, paycheck to paycheck. This is how it goes. Until I started learning from the first gentleman that I went into business with, who started saying to me, look at your money like they're employees. Send them out so they come back with more. And I thought, wow, that is a really great way to think about that.
I tell a lot of people, so I talk about that all. When you have an asset that's income producing, it's like an employee without the personality problems. Right? It's out there working for you 24/7, building your wealth. And you just keep adding assets to the asset column, because you're financially free when the income from your assets exceeds your monthly expenses. It does not have to be millions of dollars.
Right. So what would be an asset right now that a young adult, if you told them, start here to start investing?
Well,
Real
assets
estate is
include businesses that you own, and you don't. It's not a job; it's a business. Rental real estate investing. There's lots of different ways to invest in real estate. Paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. And then there's intellectual property, something that you share with other people in a form that people want to buy. So it becomes an asset. Intellectual property is by far the most lucrative way to build assets. And then commodities, that type of thing.
Right.
And then collectibles. Collectibles don't provide cash flow. So I tell you, don't put collectibles at the back of the burner. So.
Interesting. Yeah, it just amazes me that this is an area. I was having a conversation with my nephew over the holidays. He's now 25, I believe. Has a really good job out of college. And he was saying something. He said, I'm so excited because I'm getting 2 promotions in January, which means I'm going to have more disposable income. And I went, okay, so you do know that you should be taking some of that money and putting it over here, right? So it'll start making more. He's like, I just want to have fun with it. And I thought, okay.
Well, and remind him of the operative word disposable, which means you get it and it's gone.
Right.
That means your momentum is in the wrong direction.
Yeah. But he just couldn't he thought I was being funny, saying, okay, no, this is what you're supposed to do. But it's such a thing. The other thing I hear a lot from them is they tell me, when I try and talk to them about financial planning early on, they don't feel like they're ready yet. Like they don't have, how am I going to be able to invest in anything when I can barely, get through paying my rent, right? So I don't know if you have any tips around that as to, where they should just start with whatever little they have.
Well, typically those individuals are ignoring it. They're putting their head in the sand. And so the issue is to pay attention to what your outflow is and what your inflow is and make small adjustments that make your life a little better tomorrow than today. Get a roommate. Cut your housing expenses. Look at ways to make extra income. All right. Yeah. There's lots of different ways. I have a money mastery program that you can check out on my website. But, we talk about ways to quickly improve your credit, ways to improve your income, ways to reduce your expenses, how to get out of bad debt in a systematic way. But part of it, Carey, it all comes down to making a decision.
Right.
And that's what people avoid. They kind of just go with the flow. They don't want to change anything, and they're not in control of their lives. When it comes to money, you're either in control of your money or it's in control of you.
Right.
And far too many people today, money is in control of them. I mean, I know this isn't airing today, but there was a huge drop in the stock market today. So all of a sudden, money is all fear-based.
Yes.
It's an emotional subject, but it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Money is a piece of paper with ink on it, all right? And so you have to say, how can I provide a basic financial foundation for myself that will allow me to sleep at night?
Yeah.
All right? And people hear about, the greatest new currency that they want to invest in. Somebody on the elevator says something, and they get all emotional about it, and they want to make sure they're part of it. And people have made millions of dollars with Bitcoin. A lot of people have lost millions of dollars on Bitcoin because they didn't educate themselves. I mean, Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world, he doesn't invest in something he doesn't understand. It's a pretty basic concept.
Yeah. Well, I think you touched on this earlier, and I think we need to circle back around to it because it does start with a decision, but it's also becoming aware of what your mindset is around money, and you've got to be willing to change that, and that's the hard work. The hard work is changing what you say about money and how you feel about money and how you fear money. It's all that's the start.
But the first step is recognizing it.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize that they have a mindset of scarcity because it's programmed in their subconscious.
Right.
And so when you start thinking about it, you can actually reveal it and say, oh, I guess I do. I'm afraid I'm never going to have enough money. That's scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
And so taking steps to adjust your scarcity mindset into abundance. That's what happened. You've heard me say this before. When I get mad about something, I start a new company. So when COVID hit, everybody was scared to death about everything. And so I turned off the news. I said, we got to have some positivity. So I started a program called ATM, Take on a Bank, Abundance, Tips, and Mentorship every single day. I think I'm just around my 1,500th one.
Wow.
Every single day, 7 days a week, to help people secure a positive anchor in their brain for the day, to help them just shed the negativity. And it's so important. It's very inexpensive, but it's something that we have some incredible testimonials from people about the changes that has helped make in their lives. And at the end of each one, I go, you are fabulous. Say it with me, I am fabulous. Because, self-confidence is probably 99% of the issue. Be confident in yourself that you can make the decision and you can take the action. But fear holds us back. It paralyzes us, and if you're one of the few people where fear motivates you, then you can turn it into focus. So I help people turn their fear into focus, the focus into fuel, and the fuel becomes their faith, and the faith is what keeps them moving forward.
Yeah. You have helped me so much in this area, and I know you know that. And there's a mantra going through my head right now that as the mind goes, the money flows, or something like that, right? And I've witnessed this myself. Whenever I'm getting very, very fearful and starting to be afraid of, let's say, making an investment in the next thing that I need to go up in my career or something, right? Anytime I do that, I can feel that it shut off the flow of money. Anytime that I've been very abundant, very grateful, I remember saying to you once that I was feeling guilty about the money that I have, and you said, how about changing that from guilt into gratitude? So I started saying gratitudes around, what I had, what was coming, and it's just instantaneous. When you start just shifting how you think, what starts happening? But I think a lot of people don't believe that either.
Yeah, a lot of people start getting success and they end up with success guilt. And they feel, it goes back into early religious programming. Money is evil. Well, no, it's actually the love of money is evil. God wants us to be abundant.
Right.
We have the ability. And the more people you help, the wealthier you become.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that because you're helping other people. Now, are there greedy, yucky, rich people? Of course. But there's also greedy, yucky, poor people.
Right.
So you decide, do you want to be someone who's generous, who's grateful, who's making a difference? I mean, as you've heard me say 1,000 times, successful people solve problems and serve needs. And we have a lot of problems and a lot of needs that need to be served.
Well, always a wealth of knowledge, Sharon. I think that you've given us some really good things around, especially for parents right now. I really want them to understand, first and foremost, that they need to check their own mindset, number one, because you can't raise a child and expect them to go off and be a successful entrepreneur if you're saying, I can't do this.
And you need to be aware of what's happening in the world of money. I started about the same time I did the ATM. About a year later, I started a monthly program called Let's Talk Money. It's an hour and a half where I talk about what's happening in the world of money so that people can learn and take action. And it's not trying to sell you something. It's literally, this is what's happened. Right now we have a bill in front of Congress that may bring back in 100% bonus depreciation. That's a huge deal if that passes. And so I'm helping people understand the things they need to do. There's a bill that just became effective in January, a beneficial ownership requirement that you have to file for every entity you own with the Treasury Department, your beneficial ownership in those entities. And if you don't, it's like over a $500 a day fine starting January of 2025.
I saw that.
And people aren't talking about it.
Right.
And so this is every single month I'm bringing these issues to my audience to make sure that they know before they get caught unawares. Know what's happening so you can make adjustments now. And it's called Let's Talk Money.
Let's Talk Money. I've sat in on that a couple times. I love that. Something else that just popped into my head. It's hard, I think, especially as young adults, to talk about money because there's so much comparison going on. And they can, especially with
not just young people, Carey.
Well, yeah. I wasn't going to loop myself in there, Sharon. But, it is hard to talk about it because you can look at somebody that you think is just crushing it and maybe right at the moment you're not and have a whole bunch of shame around it and not want to talk about it. And I think that's the wrong thing to do. I've learned personally not to go there because everybody's going through their own journey.
There's also people out there talking about how they're crushing it, and they're not.
Yeah, I know.
And so you have to do your due diligence. Pay attention to who you're listening to.
Yeah.
And check them out. Make sure that they're real deal.
Yeah.
There's a guy, I won't name names, but holding himself out as this great executive coach, and he's never had any success of his own. And it's like,
yeah.
Who do you want to take your advice from? Somebody who's been there, done that? I would hope so.
Right.
Rather than somebody who says they're an expert and yet they don't have any wealth of their own.
Yeah.
So it's really important to do your due diligence and verify.
This is why I come to you. Because when I see those people, I will come to you and say, so tell me the backstory of so-and-so. And you seem to have it all figured out. So I'm grateful for you for that.
Well, one of the things is you've got to protect your own personal brand, Carey. And so when I'm asked to speak somewhere, before we say yes, I want to know who else is on the stage.
Right.
Because there are some people I will not share a stage with. And that's something, do I give up money? Yeah, I do. But I can sleep at night.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So your resources. So Let's Talk Money is monthly. The ATM comes out daily. Love that. And I know we're going to share some links for people when we...
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
SharonLechter.com/money talk or SharonLechter.com/ATM for either of those programs.
Yeah.
So.
And all of Sharon's books.
Yes.
All 28. I would recommend highly, there's one book that everybody should read from a very early age, which is Think and Grow Rich, of course. And now your book, Think and Grow Rich for Women. Exit Rich. I mentioned Outwitting the Devil.
Yeah, particularly when we're you and I are so interested in that younger generation. That's the book they need to read first because it's a little in your face. They love it, but it really wakes them up to their numbness. Because most of our young people today are just numb. They're numb to the world, and they don't want to face stuff, so they don't. Yeah. And they just exist and drift, as we talk about it in Outwitting the Devil. And that's, as adults and caring people, we need to wake them up and let them see the opportunities in front of them.
Yeah. So many good nuggets, so many great resources. I will personally, again, thank you for being my mentor in my life, good friend, and just all-around great advisor. And I'm just grateful for that.
Well,
so grateful.
You are a delight, and as you know, we use your expertise as well for our other clients as well. So it's all helping, serve. You got to serve your people. Don't just sell them, serve them.
Right.
And that's how you create success in a relationship as opposed to a transaction.
Right.
So.
Well, so good. So grateful for you. Thank you for being here with me.
My pleasure, Carey. Thank you.
I want to thank you all for listening to this episode of Moving Through and Beyond. And I want to encourage you that if you have never done this, the best thing you can do for yourself, especially if you are a young adult right now that we just have talked about not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling really stuck and you don't even know where to start, I want to encourage you to really sit down and envision your life as if it's 3 to 5 years from now. I did this myself when I was in my late 20s and it changed everything for me. I was working a full-time job and wasn't happy with doing the 9-to-5 gig, and I knew that I wanted to be able to work from home at a certain point, especially when we were going to start a family. So I was encouraged by a mentor to sit down and write out my vision and get really clear on what I wanted my life to look like. So I want to give you some hope and have you do that because you can get out of whatever situation you're in right now, no matter what the circumstances are. So I just want to leave you that little nugget and a little sliver of hope, and just write the vision and write it big. And don't even worry about what it looks like right now. Just dream, all right? So thanks for listening to this episode, and I'm just here to remind you to keep looking up. If you found this episode inspiring or helpful, please share it with a friend or a family member. In order to be successful on this mission, I can't do it alone. Connect with me at www.careyconley.com, and don't forget to sign up for my weekly Do It On Purpose newsletter. Let's build this life-giving vision movement together to end this epidemic, save lives, and create purpose.